All right, so I do have time to do one more. This one again is a request from a viewer, so thanks again for putting in those requests because again, if you're thinking about it, potentially there's other people out there that are feeling or thinking similar thoughts. So this one I will be referring to some notes just because I want to make sure that I'm capturing some of the more like tips, I guess, on things that I've experienced in my life and they might be of value for you. So this one is about the pain of small talk. I totally get it. I had a really tough time with small talk. I still do. It drains. I'm assuming most INTJs, depending on your spectrum, you will not come out of that farther ahead. It's going to take more out of you than it puts in you. Actually, it doesn't put anything in you. Small talk is difficult, I feel, for an INTJ, and this is in general, just because of the idea of lack of substance. You are just sitting there and making niceties, and yes, it's great to maybe build rapport, but at the same time you're wondering what's the point. There's a lot of people you may or may not want to be talking to, but you say have to because say it's a work obligation, or it is, the horrendous idea of a wedding that you have to go and talk to random other relatives, that type of thing. So I totally feel you, and I do have a perfect example. Before I knew much about MBTI, my father, who is an ISTP, apologies, and my brother is also an ISTP. We were at a big family event, and it was one of those things where we just slowly withdrew into a corner and we just sat there, and it's like watching people and waiting for it to end while we were being kind of snarky about it wasn't mean-hearted, but it was more using the sarcasm to the 10th power. So anyways, I'm there for you, I get it. So a couple of things that I wanted to bring up, just because I have a background quite a bit in public relations and the service industry, like I mentioned, with working through university as a waitress. You have to put on that face, and it is exhausting, but yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do to make sure that you're able to put food on your table. So what I found that was interesting is the ability as I've gotten older to take one story and really build it up. So instead of being, how are you? And you say good, say, something where it's like, oh my gosh, I had, a heck of a day. I've got, I stepped in some dog poo, and then I went like going on a mission in the way that you're telling a story, you're entertaining, you're holding your space for, especially when you're talking about small talk, there's only a certain amount of time that you're engaging with someone. So the 5-minute quip, then one other thing is deflecting back to them. So asking some interesting questions about them. And it could be a compliment that you're just bringing up and asking more about that compliment you bring forward. A big part is people want to talk about themselves. So that is perfect for an INTJ, because INTJs, from my experience, really are fantastic listeners. So instead of going into a deep conversation, just talking about or planting a question that is less innocuous, it's more just general, and being genuinely interested in what they're saying, and then politely excusing yourself. It's totally normal in a small talk situation that you go to the next person, or run to the washroom or do whatever. It's it's part of the repertoire for that type of engagement. The other piece that I wanted to bring up is because you as INTJs are reliant on intellectual endeavors, usually, you have brains. So using that brain capacity to encourage your own sarcasm or wittiness is something that is a lot of fun, because we realize as well that other people don't want to necessarily be in that social engagement potentially either. So the ones that you can tell that are maybe more uncomfortable, you don't have to be the life of the party, but you can be yourself and apply your intellect to be engaging on using your wit and using interesting anecdotes potentially. The other piece too is self-deprecation. Now, I say this because the mentality behind, say, an INTJ could be that even though people do make quite a few comments that INTJs are cold or aloof or arrogant, what I find for myself and what I've read in a bit of literature is we know what we know and we know what we don't know. So what's a perfect way to take advantage of that is using self-deprecation. So it's not saying that you're cutting yourself down, but you're allowing yourself to be real or on, all of us are human. And if you take away that idea that you have to be perfect all the time, you're ripe for having a good social small talk engagement, because everyone likes to have someone who is talking good and bad about themselves. They don't have to cut themselves down. You don't have to sit there and make yourself feel small. It's when you're confident in yourself, what you're saying about what you're not good at is not a flaw. It's just showing what you're not good at. You're better at, say, other things than other people, but you don't need to boast about that. The self-deprecation is something that's approachable. So, you can watch British humor comedies and you'll see it in spades. They're professionals at being self-deprecating. So the last thing is the idea of making sure people feel good about themselves. So if you're, say, insecure or uncomfortable around people, like I said, a lot of other people are feeling the same way. So there's an opportunity to have that empathy strengthened and, start paying attention to that muscle in yourself and strengthening that intuition muscle of when you need to be maybe empathetic or approachable and endearing, if that feels comfortable for you in that moment. The other piece is that you're most likely very strong alone, that this is just another tool in your toolkit that is not a bad thing to have, especially as you grow older. And I've noticed that the empathy muscle just grows and grows as you mature and you work through your MBTI profile. So anyways, I hope that helps. And again, comments and video requests as always, put it in the comment section so I can quickly see it, because I get behind on responding. So I apologize for that. I do read them. It's just trying to manage life, career, and so forth. So thanks so much for watching.